Good evening, everybody. We are back. I don't know why I sound so quiet. Finally back here, another Thursday afternoon. Um, Having a lot of fun here. We got a good guest, good friend of mine, Kyle Stevens, will be joining me right away here. Um, had an interesting last week in the world of racing. We did our first NASCAR Pinty Series race last weekend at Sunset Speedway. Track we've had a lot of success at. Alex has won there twice, lapping the field 1 year. We struggled there the last couple of years. Cars just haven't been that great. But the last year we did quite well, and definitely this year, man, Scott Steckley, 22 Racing, they put together a great package for us. Practice one, all 3 22 Racing cars in the top three. We qualified well, the cars were racing well, and then unfortunately, Kyle Steckley in the 22 had a battery issue, dropped him a bunch of laps. We ended up getting spun at one point, dropping to the back. We were able to drive forward before getting a little bit of contact. Spun us, and then we got clipped, took out the radiator, which just killed what was really shaping up to be a great day. I mean, we were probably a top 3 car at the end of the race. Just needed a few green flag laps. It was unfortunate. There were a lot of cautions towards the end of the race that kept the field really bunched up, too wide, and sometimes that's the way it goes. Really looking forward to getting back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park this weekend. We've got a new road course car. Hopefully we get all the gremlins shaken out, and hopefully it's going to be a competitive piece here for us. Shaking the gremlins out, something I know all too well. I've got a brand new go-kart that we've been slowly trying to work it up to speed here the last couple of weeks, but a little bit of negligence on my part has not worked in my favor. Little lingering things. Somehow my battery went flat. I've got a really good, long-lasting lithium battery, but during our first heat, it just laid an egg. I've never experienced a dead battery before, so I wasn't comfortable with or wasn't familiar with the end result and the symptom that I was getting. It just didn't register to me. We ended up rebuilding basically the entire fuel system. Went to go test fire it afterwards, and there was no juice. And once we got the battery charged, life was a lot easier. But made a boneheaded move to go into the final last night. Did some work on our brakes, and once I got the brakes dialed in, or once I felt the brakes on our formation laps, thought I had too much rear, made the adjustment, and I don't know if it's because I had my helmet on my head and my brain wasn't working properly, but instead of moving the brake bias forward, I moved it backwards, and when it came time to hit the brakes at turn 1 on lap 1, locked my rear, spun myself out, and unfortunately that kind of ended my night. But these are the things that happen. Looking forward though to next week. Hopefully get a little bit of practice time in this time. I haven't done a qualifying lap. I haven't been on new tires yet, so there's still lots of room for improvement. But enough about me, enough about the last week in racing. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kyle Stevens. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Now, unfortunately, I mean, you can kind of see on our other screen here, you're going to get the label of Talkin Torque, and you're going to get my name on your title there, because I just haven't figured out how to program this any better than that. But obviously, during Talkin Torque, we're going to do exactly that. We are going to talk torque, and something that you can probably keep up with here a little bit because of your family business. You guys operate a I don't know, the garage is the right way to term it, but you guys have like an auto service center.
That's the perfect way to describe it is auto service center. So
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's your business called, and what exactly do you guys do?
yeah, so we're our business called Dynaco Automotive. We're on the southeast side of Edmonton, 75th and Argyle area. Super fortunate to be part of the Napa Auto Pro brand. Napa Auto Pros are independently owned automotive repair facilities, service centers. But the really cool thing is we have a lot of programs that allow us to have national and North America wide coverage on a lot of parts, products, services, and warranties.
Well, that would come in handy. I break a lot of shit all over the place. Um, so I mean, obviously I know your guys' business very well. You guys worked on my daughter's car the last couple of days, and that was awesome. It's great to to have a facility where you can trust the people that are doing the things that you don't understand. Like, I think that's where a lot of people are reluctant to go to an auto center instead of, well, my friend knows how to do this and he's got a compressor in his garage. Nobody wants to admit that they don't know something. Nobody wants to admit that, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know what's wrong with my car, because then they're worried that they're going to get taken advantage of. And I can say firsthand, after knowing you and Mark, your father, for so many years, trust is not an issue over there. You guys must deal with that quite a bit, though.
We do, yeah. So my dad, Mark, has been in business since the late 80s, so going on 34, 35 years. Super fortunate for myself to grow up alongside someone who has been an industry leader, who's helped pioneer and develop a lot of the training for a lot of the Napa Auto Pros, independent service centers there. But most importantly, I mean, he grew up in the era where you would have you'd go to the gas station, you get your fuel put in your vehicle, and you'd have your oil topped up, windows squeegeed, wiped off, and whatnot. So really, the service side of things. And so when he went into business, he really tried to take those principles that he learned.
Hold up. I'm trying to take a drink of water here off camera, and for some reason my water bottle is leaking all over me. So I'm sorry to be a distraction. I've reset my bottle. I've tried to get the lid on properly, but we're having a bit of a mechanic malfunction here, and unfortunately you're my most recent mechanic, and unfortunately you're previously committed. So I'll try one more. No, this thing is leaking all over the place. I didn't even take a drink. I think we're just going to go lidless. So sorry that I interrupted.
Hey, no worries. I mean, gotta have the comedy.
Well, we don't have to, but I try. So
anyways, yeah, so I just back to what we were saying, just really bringing that service to the forefront and making sure that clients, new clients, friends, family referrals, when they come to our shop and facility, they're greeted by clean, professional, family run business from a lot of years in the Edmonton area. So
with a great coffee maker in the lobby.
We do, yeah. We have a really great coffee maker, Napa branded colors. It's the best you can ask for.
So then I do general stuff with you guys. You guys will, help me out when I can't do something myself, like wheel balancing things. I've done oil changes there, but you guys probably get into more elaborate services than what I've had call for. What like you guys have a specialty over there, or
I'd say yeah. So I'd say probably one of the really strong points in our shop, or one of the really cool things we have in our shop, is our shop foreman, who's been with my dad for quite some time. He's an industry leader and just an all around electrical and diagnostic guru, if you will.
I will.
the fun things that that he's been able to discover and work with, and that's got him to win some awards in Canada and be on the All Trades board.
What's the All Trades board?
So in Alberta, there's a board of directors, if you will, that help plan and discuss and really kind of make a future for all of the upcoming technicians, um, carpenters, welders,
Like
basically any tradespeople.
Okay.
And they meet and they work with the Alberta government, and they say, this is where the industry's headed. This is, what we're seeing. This is what we think we need to make sure that the upcoming generation knows and understands. And he's part of that, just because of his knowledge, and he keeps up with the trade. But even in our shop, he's a huge asset to train not only our guys and the upcoming guys, but also when we need him to step in, he's some of the more difficult diagnostics that we've had to undertake. He's been there and able to find them out.
So, I mean, I hear a number of the names when I go in there. Who is your foreman?
So his name is Blaine Booten.
Oh, so it is Blaine.
So
he's the guy that when I bring you something that nobody knows how to fix, he's the guy that gets in, does the road test, does the field, and to tie in kind of one of our future conversations, is it better or worse to have racers as clients?
I think I would broaden that to say, without throwing anybody under the bus, it's
you can chuck me under the bus.
No, it's car enthusiasts. I'll broaden that in general, whether you're a racer or someone who loves cars, antiques, new cars, whatever. Anybody who knows enough to get themselves into trouble, so to speak. They come in, they think they're trying to help, but sometimes that leads us in a completely opposite direction. It's kind of like for myself, as you alluded, I know basically two things: cars and racing. But you get me into any type of household thing or computers or anything like that. Computers are a little bit different. I know, again, I'm that car enthusiast. I know just enough about computers and technology to get myself into trouble. But when I'm in trouble, man,
you need a specialist.
I need a specialist.
So what I'm asking though is that, racers, especially moderately accomplished racers, like I'm a racer, but I'm not a car guy. I don't give a shit about cars. I don't know anything about cars. I don't study them. I don't know stats. I don't know that and even any of the cars I've owned nice cars. And aside from maybe knowing how much horsepower and how much torque a thing made, I don't know anything. But where I'm pretty good, aside from, obviously I'm not a mechanic because I don't know how to charge my battery when I need to. And I didn't know that this way is forward on my brake bias and this, but I've got a good feel from, how I'm in a cart or when I'm in a car, like the Niki Lauda character said in the movie Rush. Like she's like the one character, he's telling her that, there's a bunch of issues with her car. And she's like, how do you know that? And he says, my ash. And she says, what? He says, I've got an okay mind, but an ash that can feel everything in a race car. And, like racers can do that in a lot of cases, which can be a benefit, but can also be a pain in the ass because when you get a vehicle where it's back to mostly normal and you get a racer who's like, man, I still feel in my car. I just had a great wheel balance done. I moved to my summer wheels, but I still have like on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 0.25, 0.5 vibration.
Yeah.
And it's going to drive me crazy, but it's not something that can get dialed out unless you do balance after balance. So
yeah,
is it a benefit or are we pains in the ass?
I'd say in some aspects it's kind of both ways. It's a benefit because your car, you drive your car every single day, and you have, racers have, anybody with experience in cars, racers, they have that feel, like exactly what you said. So we can diagnose as much as we possibly can. Like you said, we can do as many repairs as we can. We can balance as much as we can. but ultimately you're the one that drives it every single day. So, if a technician, even as experienced as Blaine, who's very, very sensitive, I mean, he's a racer himself. So
What does he race?
he grew up racing, stock cars over at it's Rad Torque Raceway now.
We don't use that name.
Well, it's
We don't use that name.
The other raceway.
We call that the racetrack by the airport.
Racetrack by the airport.
Yeah.
And then so grew up racing stock cars there, ice racing. Had his son race go-karts and stuff as well. So he's really fine-tuned to his car and other people's cars themselves. So we can get it dialed out as much as we can, but at the same time, if, like you said, that 0.25 and you're trying to chase that 0.25, like you're trying to chase that half tenth to a tenth on a racetrack, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you'll never get it. Just depends.
Fortunately, right now I am so bloody slow. The tenths and the 2/10, the quarter, the half second, the full second, they're going to come fairly easily once we get some gremlins worked out. But I'm always very aware when I go talk to someone that, like, my awareness for what I feel is probably a little bit higher than what most people can. And that, I don't mean that to be arrogant, but I feel it. And, I had a situation where, one of my tire people took my car for a drive when it was, it was a 3, like it was vibrating. And he came back and said, no, like, I wish I could get my truck to drive this nice. I'm like, you don't feel what I feel. Like, the wheel was actually like jittering. The car drove straight, but it jittered to the point that if you put a bag, or if there was like a piece of paper, you would look over and it would be flopping because the car's vibrating so much. Like, so at that point it's like, I just give up. I'm going to go see Earl, who knows what time it is. And away we go.
Yeah.
Now we talked a little bit about the fact that you work with your father.
Mm-hmm.
So working, obviously my son works within my business. Family business, there's certain benefit to it, but there's obviously some challenges. Like,
absolutely. I mean, especially, when your dad's done it for so many years, he's an industry leader. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about, and great asset. But, there's times where I know that there's a new way of doing things as things progress in the world, technology progresses. So you try to show them, hey, there's a new way to do this and we'll accomplish the same goal. But ultimately it's his shop, his business. So he has the final say. There are times where you butt heads. But it's even the nice thing about myself and my dad is we've had such a good bond growing up, racing and being together a lot, that even in our most heated moments, if you will, it always ends up with a laughter at the end of the day. So, you have those challenges working with family, but I wouldn't want to do it any other way, so to speak.
Yeah. So without Chuck and Mark under the bus, because obviously he built that business and he's got, reasons for why this is done this way. Is he open to change, or is he open to the new ideas when you come up with something? Or is it something where you have to kind of drag him along kicking and screaming until he sees the benefit, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, and then says, okay?
I think it depends on the scenario that we're in. Really, it does. It's kind of case by case. So, I mean, there are times where I'll suggest an idea, or we'll have done something, and I've shown him, hey, let's do it this way. He's like, yeah, right on, let's do that. And then there's, certain times where I'm saying we should do it this way. Let's do it this way. He's like, no. And then, I'll distract him or something like that, or he'll get distracted, and then I kind of go in there and just get it done, and it gets done, and then I show him, and then it's like, hey, see, that worked.
Is that why you have those keys on the end of a stick that you kind of jingle once in a while? Is that what that's all about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, hey, Dad, there's a new client. You should go introduce yourself.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like the kind of guy. I mean, I know Mark fairly well, but not from a business standpoint, just
Mhm.
at the racetrack, but seems like the kind of guy that if he could even get rid of those computers and go back to doing everything by paper, he'd maybe that maybe be something that you guys would try and figure out, even though it's a requirement to be up and running.
You know what's crazy is there's a lot of shops out there, and technology has grown where you can go in and do digital type inspections with the iPad. Technicians have an iPad in the shop. They can do uh, take pictures and do the checklist themselves. But we are still on an inspection form, so to speak, so paper form that he helped develop and whatnot. And we're still going with that because there have been feedback in the industry that that modern technology, although it's there and it's cool, it's nice to use for the end user and the client and the consumer. As far as an operation standpoint goes, we're finding it's still better and more efficient to do it by paper. So, believe it or not, I'm on board with that train right now. I think we're still in the developmental progress of that. But I can tell you right now, at the end of the week, at the end of the day, he's trying to minimize the paper he gets on his desk. So I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I've got him swayed into more of the technology side of things. But we're just not 100% there. And to be frank, I agree with them on certain aspects of that old school paper, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I'm odd. Like in my head, I'm still like I'm a kid younger than you, but in reality, I'm an old guy now. Like I'll be 50 this year. I've run my business for 23 years, and yeah, Parker will come to me and come up with ideas, and it's like, nope, just
yeah.
like I understand where you're going with it, but no, we're going to keep doing it this way until we see. But anyway, instead of talking about the battle of the old farts versus the
The
young
father
punks,
son, yeah.
um I'm thinking back to your shop. I mean, I've been there obviously many times. um how many bays do you guys have?
So we have a 10 bay shop.
I knew it was big.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had another location before we were at this one.
There
We've
we
been
go.
at
I'm
this
just I'm
location.
just throwing your title up here
Yeah,
so people can
perfect.
see your logo and the Dynaco.
Yeah. So, I mean, the location we're at, we've been there since 2008. We had a shop before that was actually, I think we're 16 or 18 base, so a little bit of a downsize. But the shop we're in now is actually a really good size for what we're doing. 10 bays. We have so we have 7 bays that have hoists, and the rest do not. We do have one kind of wash and detail bay, so that's part of the service that we do here. Anytime a vehicle comes to the shop, 95% of the time you're going to get a car wash. The other 5%, it's either too cold, raining, or unfortunately
You're
something's
just too
down
busy.
or too busy. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is never a complaint on me to being too busy, but
I think I need to get the pressure in my tires checked. More than anything, I just need a free car wash, but
I should probably put that premium air in there, right?
if you could, yeah,
Okay.
we need them match perfect and staggered special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
But
but
you don't just work with like you know I was going to say residential people. I don't know, like you don't
I'd say,
just deal with the
general
general
consumers,
public,
general public. Yeah,
but not just like you guys will do like fleet stuff and you'll do.
we do. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, at one point out of our shop, I think, when we first started, when Alberta was super, super strong, super, super booming, we were probably close to 75, 80% fleet out of our shop.
Oh wow.
And so fleet, businesses that have trucks anywhere from 5 up to at our biggest fleet, I think we were kind of coordinating and managing up to 160 trucks, which was super, super fortunate. So, I mean, we still kept on with that. We're probably only about 65, 70% fleet, which is still a good portion of our business.
We kick the shit out of vehicles here in Alberta, so that's got to be some good business.
It's it is great business, but we also keep the vehicles maintained. We have a lot of fleet accounts that have built that trust with us and understand our process. One of the really cool things about fleet that we do is, they want to take their trucks to one place, one facility, and have everything done all at once. It's a lot of downtime for them to have their drivers go to X location for this, and B location for this, and C location for that, whereas we've really found that, if you drop it off at our shop, and that's one of the things that we do is we can coordinate all the servicing. If the truck needs a windshield, we can do that. If it needs to go to the dealer for warranties or recalls, we can help facilitate that.
So you'll outsource things that you
Exactly.
don't have in-house.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we built a really, really good network of small businesses in the Edmonton area, especially on the southeast side there, that we get along with really, really well. That help us out when we need to do whatever it is kind of additional. So, and then the team the team we have at the shop has really been, we've trained is kind of a, not the right word that I'm looking for, but brought them on our way of thinking and understanding. Okay, when a truck comes to our shop, it's got some sort of defect, whether it's mechanical, service, diagnostic, whatever. So that truck is on downtime. So that truck needs to come into our shop and be cycled through with, minimalizing the downtime, because that costs the company money when the truck's not in service.
Yep.
On the flip side of that, our QC and quality control and thoroughness on servicing those trucks is a really, really high standard, because when it leaves the shop, it's ironic, but we don't want to see it until the next service interval.
Yeah. Which, I mean, again, using my personal example, we brought my daughter's car into you for a power issue. So we, if her car would sit for a week, it would come back and it'd be dead. Now, this is going to, I want to say this the right way, because I was going to say by the time we were done, but like through the course of operation, Blaine heard a squeak and turned out to be a wheel bearing. Turned out that there was, general service needed for oil change, for like inspection. And like, those were all great things to hear about, because, well, some people would take a look at it and say, oh yeah, well, they just jacked up the bill. No, they wanted to make sure that, they know that you guys know that these are human beings that are in these vehicles. This is my daughter. I want to make sure that she's safe. It's scary enough out there dealing with the other drivers. You don't need a wheel falling off, because you just didn't do service, or you brought it to someone who does, quick time turnaround oil change, but they don't see anything else. And people think that as long as you change the oil, like, I mean, I'm really thankful for service like that.
Yeah. We have a line on our, whenever when clients come in and they have a specific concern, like yourself, like you said, yours was a power issue, but right on the work order, we put on there our technicians, advises of any other concerns, because you have a concern, a very specific concern, but our professionals in the back, we road test vehicles every single time. And if they notice something, again, we bring it to your attention. Ultimately, you're in control of your spending. So, unless it's a safety item that would prevent the vehicle from leaving the shop, you're in control of what you spend. And even at that point, you're still in control of what you spend. It's just, sometimes if it's a safety concern, you might not be driving it out.
Well, I like to know that I'm in control. So I'm going to negotiate here and say that I want to pay 20% less for what we just did.
You already paid 20% less.
20% less than that.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe what I'll do is I'll convert that into some racing tips on the cart.
Fuck, do I need them? Oh my God, do I need them? Excellent segue, by the way. Well done.
Hey.
I think it's time that we start, transitioning the torque part of our talk from like kind of automotive mechanical torque to racing torque.
I like racing
because that's how we met.
That is.
So, back in those days, man, there were so many of you little snot-nosed punks that were just whooping everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a lot of friends around me, and they were fast. I mean, you met one of them last night. I don't know if you met him previously or not, or remember him, but Adam
No.
Gilbert. I mean, I grew up racing with him since I was, I think, 9 years old. We would run down from Edmonton down to Calgary all the time, run the Calgary circuit. We even traveled 42 hours to Mosport.
Track I know very
A
well.
track you know very,
Love
very
it.
well, for the 2003 Nationals. So, being in a truck with him for that long, and my dad and his dad, who have very similar personalities, mind you. So
Boy, that sounds like a lot of wine.
it was a good road trip, let me tell you that. But
Yeah.
other guys like Michael Chaya, I mean,
Yeah.
he grew up racing with me. There was another young kid called Curtis Strong who was before your time, primarily out at actually the old the track that we race at, Edmonton's out of Warburg. So the original circuit that was out there.
Over in Sherwood Industrial.
No, on
Oh,
Warburg,
the
but the other
first,
side, the first
the
Warburg track.
first. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very fast. So, and then of course, you had individuals like Sean McDonnell. I think you know the McDonnells.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they kind of moved to
They're doing
dirt.
sprint cars
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, but I mean, former Cantork sponsored driver Stefan Rudzinski.
Absolutely.
Obviously Steph and Mike are good friends, and know both of them very well. But yeah, I mean, all you guys would, once we started, you guys would race weekends. I didn't know that there was a weekend program out there. All I knew about was DD2, and all I ever did, because DD2 runs on Wednesdays.
Absolutely.
And the original deal with the DD2 group was to be a DD2 racer in that group, you had to be 35 years old. You had to, blah, blah, like typically you had to be a business owner, although that wasn't really enforced in later years because they didn't want people coming into the track or into the group that thought they were the next professional racer, that thought they were going to get signed and were going to be super aggressive. And of course, we know a number of people who ended up coming in who met every criteria, but still were like wrecking balls out there. But we tended to shy away from the kids because we at least the original managers of that track at Stratatech thought, okay, well, we're gonna put guys on the track who have something to lose, so that they're going to be a little bit more respectful. But it's crazy how many great drivers came out of that track.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I was just thinking as you're discussing that, back in the day, I grew up and started on the weekend. When we first met, I'm sure I was still racing junior karts, because back then, Rotax came out with, it was called the RM1, which, if you remember
that was my baby.
That was the original DD2. That was the original kart, and it was
that
new
was
to Rotax.
So that RM1 was my first DD2, but we had it on the Sodi chassis.
Yes.
Which, Sodi makes great karts now, and I'm not going to, but that kart.
Oh, it was an absolute tank.
Tanks are useful. That kart drove like a broken snowplow. And, we didn't have any idea, because it, for me,
that was the only thing.
That was the first kart that I ever drove. So that was my experience. And then all of a sudden I got in a CRG. I got Troy Shellamy, past guest of Talkin Torque. I bought one of his old karts, and all of a sudden it's like, holy moly!
This is what a race kart's supposed to.
I don't have to turn the wheel this far just to get it to turn. It was like,
which is hilarious, because at the original track, if you were turning your wheel that much, you're doing something wrong. Because
I was doing everything wrong. There's no doubt about that. But man, for people who don't know, let's talk a little bit. I should have loaded a video, because I have some in-car video, but let's talk about Stratatech a little bit, because there's no track like it.
No, especially not in the karting world. I mean, they dub it the quote unquote Talladega Daytona super speedway of the go-kart world,
which is really, really inaccurate, because that implies pack racing. That implies like super easy, very little driver input.
True.
But no, I know lots of people say that, but so compared to Warburg, where we race now, EDKRA, Stratatech was 1.6 kilometers,
Yeah.
9 corners.
Hmm.
The track we race now is just a whisker over a kilometer, and we have 13 corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And half the distance in width.
Yeah, for track width.
Yeah, track width. Because I
Yeah.
mean, you could go four wide at Stroutek. You'd be lucky to get 2.5 wide at EDK.
You can do it, but
You can do it.
it's touchy. But I'm trying, like, so there's going to be an event at Stratotech for the first, like a kart event for the first time in 10 years.
Yes.
This summer. And I'm trying to tell people, like, especially our Warburg, our local DD2 guys, like, listen, here's how the two tracks compare.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me if I'm right or wrong. Warburg, you spend 80% of your lap in low gear. Stratotech, you spend 80% of your time in high gear.
Yes, 100%.
Warburg, and this won't make sense unless you're a go-karter, but just go with me here. Warburg, we run a 3463 gear, which is a fairly short gear, maximum speed of about 115 kilometers an hour. But at Stratotech, you run 3760 gears.
Mm-hmm.
With the top speed of just under 140 kilometers an hour. So when you're running in high gear with the 37, you are hauling balls.
You are. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and
but that's where you, like, really, I mean, you did well at the original EDKRA,
mm-hmm.
but Stratotech is probably where you really did the majority of your tooth cutting.
I think, honestly, because I raced at the original Warburg track, that's what helped me at Stroutek. I mean, Stroutek helped me to run fast at speed and adjust. I mean, I grew up at Stroutek right from the time the first pavement was laid. So, I also had a really super strong strength there, where I pretty much knew where every bump, every bank, if you will, every little, and as the track developed and progressed and certain corners changed or whatnot, like, I got to figure it out. And not only did I get to figure it out there, but I got to figure it out in multiple lines on that track. So I mean, it taught me a lot of it taught me a lot of trust in the kart, to be honest, is what it was. It really helped me develop, is because you're going so fast in high gear into corners that are a lot faster than, conventional kart track corners. You're probably going 20 to 40 kilometers an hour faster in corners at Stroutek than you are at any other track. You got to have some trust in your kart to get around there as fast as we were going around there.
Well, and that was Dan Beath, who built Stratotech, told me once I joined the DD2 club. He said, listen, you're going to know you're starting to find some speed when you can go through turn one, which was a big sweeping hairpin. Mm-hmm. When you can go through turn one in high gear without having your engine drop below 10,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're starting to find the line and starting to get some speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the longest time, even myself, you go into turn one and you get down there and you downshift. Just because you didn't know.
Just instinct, almost.
Just instinct, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I can go through this, and then I can actually carry speed through this turn in second gear, and use the torque of the engine to accelerate out of the corner in that high gear. And it was a lot faster. I mean, it was probably 0.2 faster by doing that.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you learn, because you start catching up to the pack, and you see, like, I'm slowing down and downshifting, and these guys they just keep rolling through the corner. And it takes a long time to build up that comfort level.
And the real trick about that track too is you have to be sure of your passing on that track, because you go up the inside of somebody and you're out the backside of the corner. That track had a lot of forgiveness for the person being passed to undercut you on the backside and then run you back down into the next corner or whatnot. Whereas some of the more technical tracks like EDKRA, it's not as forgiving for the person being passed, because you get up the inside of somebody on that track. Well, it's a tight technical corner. there's not a lot of room for you to run down a straightaway into the next turn. There's
Yeah.
maybe two points on that track where you could do that, maybe a third one where if you pass, you could run somebody else kind of down to the next corner. A Stratotech, almost every turn was like that.
Yeah, Stratotech. I mean, Stratotech, although we were able to pass, like
Yes.
it's not like it was a follow the leader track. It was definitely possible. But
You had to get creative.
the corners were so fast and so flowing that there's not like, aside from turn 8, there wasn't a real hard braking zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you come out at turn 9 onto the front straightaway, grab high gear right away, and you're not braking, you're just lifting as you get to turn 1.
Yeah.
You have a bit of a braking zone at the bus stop, and then you're kind of running mostly wide open or feather throttle through the S's, up the carousel, all the way down until you get to turn 8 to the hairpin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense if you're listening, or even if you've never been out there, but trust us.
Yeah,
That's
just trust us.
that's the way it goes.
We've been there.
Yeah. So we're going to show a little bit. Now, how old were you when you got into racing?
So I got into racing when I was 8 turning 9, but I had previously been put in the seat of a go-kart at the age of 4.
Okay.
Like we had this little home built go-kart. I wish I had a picture of it. Actually, I do have a really good picture of it. Actually, I'm sitting in the home built go-kart with my sister Alex in the back, like in behind me, and I would rip that around my cul-de-sac or crescent on the streets. But I got into racing when I was 8 or 9 years old.
So what do we have here? So we've got, this is from Italy.
This is from Italy.
And I like that it's still got the e-karting news tag on there.
That's where I got my pictures from.
Yeah, I love it. So this is the Rotax Grand Finals.
This is the Rotax Grand Final. So this was in 2010. This was my second appearance.
Okay, and you were there in DD2?
DD2, yes.
And so how, I mean, I know the answer to this, but how does that work? Like, how do you get to go to Worlds?
So in the DD2, in the Rotax world, there's multiple qualifying events, especially in Canada. At that time, the championship that I was competing in was called the Western Canadian Championships. Now it's called the Canada Final, and
Rotax Canada
Final. And so basically, you go to the events, you do well. I'm making it sound so easy, but there's a lot of buildup that leads to the event. So I mean, myself making it to the grand finals twice was 10 years of hard work, practice, determination, seat time, going to multiple different tracks. I almost qualified for the grand finals a few years previously. Interestingly enough, I don't know if I sent you that photo or not, but there's actually a photo where one of my biggest competitors growing up, Scott Campbell, and I had a dead heat. We crossed the line, and we use transponders to measure our lap times, and it was 0.000. Yeah, you have the photo up on the screen.
So I don't know how this turned out, but from my eye, Scott beat you.
No, it was a dead heat. So the transponders, him and I crossed the line to the transponder, 0.000. They tried to use this photo to determine who finished ahead of who. So you can't tell where the nose cone is. And if you zoom in, they even zoomed in to where the nose cone shadows were across the finish line.
Yeah.
And the shadows are almost identical to the spot.
But why does it look like you're trying to fall out of your seat?
Because I was trying to, so in
trying to lean forward.
Well, so when I grew up, like one of the things that you would do is you could hop in the seat to get the axle to spin faster and get the weight off the back of the cart. And so what I was doing there was I'd actually leaned forward in my seat and tried to propel the cart to go forward because we had made a pass 2 or 3 corners sooner.
Where is this?
This was at the old Calgary racetrack at Race
City. Okay.
At Race City. And they tried to determine who was ahead of who, even down to this photo finish, and they couldn't.
If you would have come off in a straight line, you probably would have got him. Because your cart is like, if you look at the left side, like, left side as we're looking at it, right side of the cart, how your cart is kind of skewed a little bit. I think that would have made the difference.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of cut off in the photo there, but I was also pretty close to the outside of the track at that point too, because I had that was coming off.
Doesn't matter. Last lap, checkers or wreckers.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
But that finish, I missed qualifying for the grand finals that year by that finish.
Where was the other grand finals you did? So obviously Italy.
So Italy was in 2010.
And that was Sarno? Or Lonato?
No, that was La Conca.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so very south Italy.
Yeah.
Previous, so that was my second appearance there. That one didn't go so well, but the 2009, so that was 2010. 2009, I was in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, which was
all right.
That was such a cool experience. That whole weekend was such a cool experience, and that year, at first grand finals appearance, I made the finals. And I ended up going. I think I went from 32nd up to 17th, which I thought was pretty good. Ended up just by chance, just because of the other way the races went. Fortunate enough to place as the top Canadian that year, just because of the other finals qualified drivers ended up getting crashed out or DNF'd or whatever the case
Doesn't matter how.
Doesn't matter how. So, a lot of fun that year, though. Outside of the karting in Egypt, a lot of cool experiences, even leading up to that. So,
yeah, Middle East is awesome. I love it over there.
Well, and it was crazy because we went over and we spent 2 days in England first. We kind of stepped my
jet lag,
yeah. So to speak. Like, we didn't just go to Egypt and put me in a cart. We went to England for a couple of days, so that was really, really cool. First time being overseas myself, being in England, seeing Buckingham Palace. My dad loved it because he got to eat traditional fish and chips and going to the pubs and whatnot. But then we went down to Cairo. Flew into Cairo, and we spent, I think, 3-4 days in Cairo, and got to go to the museum there, got to go see the Sphinx, got to travel on Cairo, and just the culture there was super, super fun to witness and be
around.
So
friendly, though.
They are.
Here, a lot of really close-minded people think of the Middle East as very hostile, but they're just lovely people, and the food is unbelievable.
It was good in Cairo.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say I've been everywhere in the Middle East, but I've been a number of countries, and every one of them is just fantastic.
And if you get a chance to go to Cairo and go to the museum, and even obviously see the pyramids, but the museum itself, I mean, that was really, really cool for me. I wouldn't say it's my passion, but I love history. I love history. I love ancient history, and just to see a lot of the artifacts that they have there, really, really cool. So, and then we flew into Sharm el Sheikh, and that was in itself also kind of a really cool, unique experience. And we were, I think, just down the road from the track, and the track was just such a really cool, technical yet fast track, being kind of in and around mountainous pyramids, but also being right on the Red Sea was really, really cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Now, you've been out of the go-kart for a while.
I have been.
You graduated from karts,
yes,
and moved into Legends cars.
I did, yes.
So how long did you run the Legends for?
So I overlapped my karting to Legends intro in 2010. So I did my qualification season in the karting to get back to the grand finals, but simultaneously I was also running. I was getting into Legends cars, and so I ran that from 2010 all the way up to 2016 was my tenure in a Legends car. Halfway through through that, I was able to win a few championships and actually secure some sponsors by Max Convenience Stores, which is now Circle K. And so the picture that you just showed was the Legends car. Was my
What was the deal with the flag?
So that track was actually in Medicine Hat because I was a Max sponsored car, and it was they do like a "Oh Canada" anthem before the race. So I got to. They
Do
asked
the
me if I could
parade.
be the parade and the flag, which actually worked out really really awesome because that year I had the paint scheme that I did, which actually matched the flag. That's just a really cool photo, I think. So.
Awesome.
But
Yeah, too bad you had to go to Medicine Hat to get that, but
you know
whatever.
what? I ran fast at Medicine Hat. I had a big crash there one year, but I ran fast at Medicine Hat. I was that track. I don't think you guys would have raced there at all, but it's a pretty small track, but it is a flat track.
Yeah,
It's a paperclip flat track.
my in-laws have drag raced there. I've
Yes.
been by the track a whole bunch because we've got customers right there with Canadian Fertilizer is right on that part of town. But
Yes.
um, so in essence, you were done in 2016 in the Legends car.
Yes.
If I never would have guessed that. So basically, we're in 2023.
Yes.
I've been bugging you for 7 years to get back into go-karts.
You have, yes.
7 years.
7 years. I did one race in 2017. I did a summer challenge race.
But that was independent of me.
Correct.
That was
Still
relying on other connections.
a race.
Well, it was just great to have you back.
Yes.
So I didn't realize my campaign has been going on
7 years.
that long. Wow. I guess I'm persistent.
You are very persistent. Part of that was, the last season I had in Legends cars wasn't my most fortuitous season.
Yeah, and you've kind of got a stated goal here. Do you want to share that publicly, or do you want to save that for when we get you back on track here later this year and see how things go?
Yeah, I think we'll always see how things go, but I'm not afraid to say it. I have goals and aspirations of getting back to the World Finals. I am fortunately or unfortunately old enough to now be considered a master. So that's just a whole nother division, a lot of talented drivers in that division, a whole nother class. And a lot of the drivers that I'll be competing against have a lot of experience, a ton of experience in various types. Even I think some of the racing I've seen at the World Finals in the Masters divisions have been better and closer than some of the junior and senior divisions.
Some of it, yeah. So when you say some of the people you'll be competing against, you mean at Warburg at EDKRA?
100%.
Yeah, I've lost count how many of our drivers have actually made it to the grand finals. Like we have on a regular night, we have like 4 or 5 for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of our 20, like last night we had 28 carts,
which is awesome to see.
It's unbelievable. Like
it's crazy. And I think we should mention too that really really cool fun fact about Stravotech. We were, or you guys started, and then as I got in, we were the largest DD2 club in the world.
We still are.
Well, and so you still are. So the fact that we can, I know that there was a little bit of a recession, so to speak, as far as drivers go in the DD2 class, but it's really, really awesome to be, for myself, finally getting back into the sport, getting back involved. And not only that, coming back into a time where we're getting 28 drivers in a field. Like
we're like the benchmark right now is we're trying to hit 30. We want to have 30 on track, but
I just get myself in a cart later in the season, and there you go.
You bet. So are you ready?
I'm not as ready as I think I would like to have been. As far as, my physical fitness, obviously being out of a race car and, last few years hasn't been the greatest as far as the fitness goes, but I've made a lot of progress in that front. I think getting back into the cart will help that. And then, use this season as let's get back into it, and then let's go hard for the future. Like I said,
it's going to show, it's going to show where you need to work for sure.
Yeah.
You're not going to be doing this that I'm going to throw up unless you got your shape back.
Yeah.
You are not going to be pulling G forces like that.
That's a crazy shot. So there,
that's not off a curb.
No, that's not. So I was running. So that was actually the race I talked about doing in 2017. That was running in the Briggs class here at EDKRA.
Yeah,
So this is in
that's.
the off camber turn.
Oh, I was going to say that was turn 5.
No, this is off camber.
Yeah.
So I figured out a way to go into that corner on that weekend because of how much rubber and grip was on the track. I could lift off for just I could drive deep into the corner, lift off just enough to set the cart, get right back on the throttle. But what ended up happening is there was so much grip on the track that not only was I picking up the back cart, jacking the cart properly, picking up, I actually ended up getting the front wheel off too,
I don't
and pretty
know.
high.
Yeah, I don't know what I know what jacking is when you pick up your inside rear, but I don't know what we're calling this.
It's bicycling it.
That's bicycling.
Yeah.
You invented that, or is that what it's actually called?
I did it. I've actually done this before at Chilliwack. At that track, they have, you go down through the kind of turn 1, turn 2, 3, down the back. There's the hairpin there, and then there's the double left-hander hairpin in the infield.
Yeah,
that turn would get so much rubber that in a 4-stroke cart, so a slower cart than a DD2
with
or
less
Rotax,
grip,
typically with less grip.
Yeah.
But because you're going so much slower, if you get the cart set up right and you get the jacking done right, you pick up. So I picked up the wheel. I did it twice in one race. At one point, I actually had to almost put my hand down because I thought I was going over.
Well, that would have been a big mistake.
That would have been a huge mistake.
What are you going to do?
I was younger then. I was still in juniors. So that was probably
goodness.
back in 2004.
That is a great picture.
Yeah.
So obviously, no matter what level you're at, racing costs money.
It does.
And that's, you would have been back in the cart for the first race had budget been no question.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I know the answers to all these questions, but what are you doing to help supplement your racing this year?
So one of the main things that I'm doing is, I'm doing a lot of driver coaching and putting myself out there to say, hey, let's develop some of these awesome drivers that we have coming up and developing at EDKRA, and let's get them all up to speed, because as much as you are as a racer and a competitor, it's almost equally as rewarding to see somebody develop their own program and get up to speed and build up the competition, because at the end of the day, we're all out there to race, but also when we do get spectators, we want to put on a good race, and the only way you do that is if you have a really good stable field of racers.
Yeah, but it's got to help you. Like, it's going to help you when you get back into the cart, because as you're teaching and as you're coaching, you got to remind yourself, like, oh, right, fundamental is this.
Yes.
Fundamental is that. And I mean, I can, again, from firsthand, the first time we ever did one of the coaching clinics with you, I found I think it was 3/10 of a second.
Yeah.
From not doing really anything different, just lots of little things on, where to point the car, where to brake, how to brake. But 3/10 of a second, I mean, that's an eternity.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially behind the wheel of a cart. And it's little things. I think the thing that really kind of helps me when I'm doing my driver coaching is I'm very adaptable to who I'm coaching, because not everybody is going to drive the same. Not everybody has the same way of thinking. Not everybody drives the cart the same way. You basically give them the basics. You give them the theoretical racing line, whether they have to adapt that or not, based off of the engine that their
driving style.
Well, the driving style, the engine, the chassis. Chassis are different. Really cool.
And you'll work with anybody's.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'm with kind of working with yourself there, and
I wouldn't say kinda, I'd say you are.
I am. Yeah. And CRG and that's, it's no surprise for me. You look at half the pictures that we just put up with me in a go-kart, and I'm in the seat of a CRG. I think that speaks volumes. And interestingly, I was actually listening to one of your previous podcasts with Alex Tagliani, and understanding, listening to him describe what CRG's been doing with the chassis and whatnot, I think is really, really cool. I think they're just doing such amazing things. But at the end of the day, I'll work with anybody that's looking to develop their program, and that will,
because drivers are going to move around. Fundamentals are fundamentals.
Yes.
Every brand has its subtlety, and right now there's not a lot of garbage out there. No. As far as who makes what. So obviously that's good to know. Yeah, just really, really interesting season so far. I mean, obviously you're a great driver coach, but maybe a lousy mechanic because you let me. You've been working as my mechanic,
I
my
use
my
that term loosely.
my crew chief this year,
Yeah, we'll go with crew chief.
and I'll tell you what, like, listen, it's really hard for a crew chief to out crew chief a really bad driver and an unattentive driver. But I will say I'll throw up one self-serving picture. Man, that cart looks good.
It does. That was yeah.
Like, yeah, photographer did a pretty good job because you took that picture, but man, like that combination of the cart, the suit, the helmet, like that's just a good looking program right there.
Yeah. I mean, you look great.
Until I
Until
started
turn
moving.
one.
Until once I started moving, it all went downhill.
Yeah.
But
Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, you got a new cart. We're working out some challenges, some bugs, but I mean, we'll get there.
yeah, it turns out batteries need to be charged, and
Batteries need to be charged.
brakes need to be balanced. And I don't
I may
know.
not have plugged in the go-kart battery, but I was really persistent and made sure I plugged in the golf cart
Oh
battery.
yeah, no, the golf cart that you drive around, it was charged right up, full of fuel. It was ready to go. But
Yeah.
yeah, the
Something tells me you would have probably done a little bit better in the golf cart that race.
the golf cart would have finished. That's would have been lapped a little bit quicker. But
Yeah.
do you have any closing thoughts here? I've kept you long enough here tonight, Mr. Stevens.
No, I mean, this was really, really fun. I think,
Can you believe it's been an hour?
no, I can't. I could probably talk forever, especially talking about racing and whatnot. So,
Well, we're just getting started, and then
yeah.
we'll have you back throughout the year. I mean,
Perfect.
I'd like to do a follow up show where we get a couple of races under your belt, and then we do the follow up as to how the body feels,
Show
expectations
off all the bruising.
versus. I always wore them with pride. I mean, that was one of the best feelings I had
Yeah.
was after a race night when my neck's a little bit sore. Like it doesn't matter how in shape and how many laps you do.
Oh,
At
yeah.
the end of a hard racing night, you are beat up. Like you are beat the fuck up.
Oh, I know.
Where your neck is like there's a soreness in your neck that's awesome. And I don't have it today because I didn't run nearly enough laps and didn't run fast enough. But there's also a feeling you have in your ribs.
Mhm.
Just like no matter how good your rib vest is, no matter like once you get ripping, that the next day there's a pain that you feel, and it's just the best.
It is because you've had a whole hell of a lot of fun the night before or the day before.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully we can get you back here. Really appreciate you giving some time. And again, if you got, I'll give you one more shot here. If you got any parting comments or parting thoughts before I kick you out.
No, I think we covered it all. I think anybody listening that wants to hang out, you know where to find me this summer. I'll be spending most of my Wednesday nights at EDKRA, and sometimes I'll be on the weekends there as well. So trying to spend a lot more time at the track this summer.
It's a great place to be. Kyle, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
All right, man. I love getting to talk to racers, and I love, getting to have, a guy like Kyle. He doesn't do a lot of pumping his own tires. I mean, he doesn't even charge my battery, but his personality just is so engaging and so adaptable to any driver. I've been doing a lot of promotion of Kyle. I think we have a few drivers lined up for some coaching. But if you're at all interested in getting involved in karting, Kyle's the guy to talk to. No matter what make a cart you have, you don't have to drive my CRG brand. You can run anything. Start with a coach. Start with good fundamentals, and your racing career is going to go so much better. Just like with things like golf, you can try and teach yourself, and some people get a level of success, and some people will struggle forever and juggle from one equipment maker to another. Start out with some fundamentals, and it's amazing how much better your racing will be. Just at the last second, look at who shows up here. We got our good friend Trevor Paulson. Look forward to seeing more of him around. Nice job. Thanks, TP. Really appreciate the kind words. One day we'll have to get you and Dev on, maybe Eileen, and do a family version of the show here. I would actually pay a little. I would pay money to have you guys on just so I can listen to the. We can start the bickering show, but. Really great family, great people. Really enjoy our time with the Fusion folks. That's it. I got to start packing. I got to get on an airplane. We got NASCAR Pinty's race this weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Got to go do some successful racing here on Saturday and Sunday, so I can remember what it feels like to when I get back to the track next Wednesday, and hopefully I can shake off some of the rust and put this super fast CRG card up front, or a little bit further forward than where I've got it now. As always, thanks for watching. You can always send me a note. You'll find us at hey there at talkintorque.ca, also available on all the socials. If you have any questions about racing, have any questions about business, don't be afraid to send them to me. And we'll see you next week.